For most moms, the toughest choice of the day is what to make for dinner. Chicken or beef, pasta or rice. But for Clara Jensen, the choice was so much more devastating. Sitting at her small, rickety kitchen table, she faced a decision no parent should ever have to make. It was a choice between the food that would keep her daughter alive and the medicine that would do the same for her. A choice she was forced to make, not just once, but every single day. A silent, heartbreaking sacrifice that nobody knew she was making. But little did she know, her secret was about to be seen by the one person who could change everything, or shatter her world completely. The evening light, thin and gray, slid through the single smudged window of their tiny apartment, casting long shadows that clung to the worn-out furniture. 6-year-old Lily sat at the table, her little legs swinging impatiently, her bright, innocent eyes locked on the single plate between them. On it sat a small portion of rice and a few pieces of steamed vegetables, a meal that was literally everything they had left in the pantry. Clara watched her daughter, a painful smile on her face. Her own stomach growled, a low ache she'd learned to ignore. But it was more than just hunger gnawing at her. A deep exhaustion had settled into her bones, the kind of tired that sleep just couldn't fix anymore. "Mommy, aren't you hungry?" Lily's voice was sweet, a sound that reminded Clara of lullabies she used to sing, back when her lungs didn't feel so tight, so full of fire. Clara's hand trembled slightly as she pushed the plate closer to her daughter. "You eat, my love. It's more important for you to grow big and strong." Lily looked from the food back to her mother's pale, tired face. Even at 6, she could tell something was wrong. She saw the dark circles under her mother's eyes, the way her breath sometimes hitched in her chest, followed by a dry, rattling cough she tried to hide behind her fist. "We can share," Lily offered, her small hand reaching for the fork. "You always say sharing is caring." A wave of love so fierce it nearly knocked Clara over washed through her. She blinked back the sudden burn of tears. "I know, sweet pea, and you are the most caring girl in the world. But I already ate while I was cooking, I promise." It was a lie. It was always a lie. The emptiness in her stomach was a constant ache. But it was the other emptiness, the one on the kitchen counter, that really terrified her. There, a small, amber-colored bottle of pills stood like a silent accusation. Her prescription, the medicine her doctor insisted was not a suggestion, but a necessity. "Clara, this isn't optional," Dr. Evans had told her, his face grim. "Skipping doses will only let your condition get worse." But that bottle cost a staggering amount of money, a number that echoed in her head every time she stood at the pharmacy counter. It was the same number she saw in the grocery bill. The math was direct and cruel. Her medicine, or Lily's food for the week. And for Clara, it was never really a choice. Lily always came first. Lily would always win. So she'd stretch the prescription. 1 pill every 3 days instead of every day, then 1 every 4. Now she hadn't taken one in over a week, and her body was screaming. A constant low-grade fever left a sheen of sweat on her brow. Her joints ached with a dull, persistent throb. The cough was getting deeper. Sometimes dizziness would hit her so suddenly she'd have to grab the wall to keep from falling. She worked as a cleaner in a downtown office building, a job that was tough on her best days and pure torture on her worst. She'd scrub floors and polish desks, her body begging for rest, her mind locked on the image of Lily's smiling face. That was her fuel. That was her reason. Her coworkers just saw a quiet, hard-working woman who kept to herself. They didn't see the silent war she was fighting, the daily math of survival she did with every single penny she earned. After putting Lily to bed with a story from a worn-out book, Clara would sit alone in the dark. The apartment was cold. She couldn't afford to run the heat for more than an hour a night. Wrapped in a thin blanket, she'd pull out the stack of bills. Rent, electricity, water. Each envelope was a threat. Tonight, the despair felt heavier than usual. The landlord had slipped a final warning under the door. She was 2 months behind. Lily had come home from school with a note about a $5 field trip, but it might as well have been $500. Her wallet held 4 single-dollar bills and some change. Her next paycheck was a week away and it was already gone. She walked back to the kitchen and picked up the pill bottle. She unscrewed the cap and shook it. The silence was deafening. It was empty. The last pill was gone. A wave of pure, cold panic washed over her. She had a refill waiting, but she knew she couldn't get it, not if Lily was going to eat. She leaned against the counter, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Then the cough came, a violent spasm that bent her over. It felt like her lungs were being shredded. When it finally stopped, she was left weak and trembling, tears streaming down her face. They weren't tears of self-pity. They were tears of fear. Fear of what would happen to Lily if she wasn't there to protect her, to push that plate of food across the table and lie with a loving smile. In the crushing silence of her small, cold apartment, Clara Jensen felt completely and utterly alone. She looked at the empty bottle one last time before dropping it in the trash. The choice was made. As always, Lily had won. Miles away, in a world so different it might as well have been another galaxy, Alistair Vance stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse. The city sprawled out beneath him, a glittering blanket of a million lights. He owned a good chunk of that skyline. He was a billionaire, a titan of industry, a man who could get anything he wanted with a single phone call. But as he stared out to it all, the only thing he felt was a deep, unshakable loneliness. His home was a monument to wealth, polished marble, gleaming glass, priceless art, but it was silent. The echo of his own footsteps was often the only sound. His wife had passed away years ago, and his kids were grown and scattered across the globe, living lives he paid for but wasn't really a part of. His days were a blur of meetings, market reports, and lonely dinners served by staff who moved like ghosts. He'd mastered the world of finance, but he'd lost the world of human connection. He was surrounded by everything, but he had nothing. Tonight, the silence felt especially heavy. That old, familiar ache settled in his chest. Not a health problem, but a symptom of his gilded cage. On a whim, needing to just be around the noise of other people, he told his driver to go home and decided to walk. He pulled on a simple, plain coat over his expensive suit, a small attempt at being anonymous in a life lived under a microscope. He walked with no destination in mind, just letting the streets lead him. The crisp night air felt good. He passed laughing couples, loud groups of friends, and families rushing home. Each one was a small reminder of his own solitude. He soon found himself in a neighborhood far from his own, where the storefronts were more modest. A light rain started to fall, so he ducked into the first lighted doorway he saw. It was a 24-hour pharmacy. The bright, sterile lights felt a world away from the dark, wet street. He wasn't there for anything. He just wandered the aisles, picking up a bottle of aspirin, looking at greeting cards, just existing. And that's when he saw her. Clara Jensen stood at the pharmacy counter, looking even smaller and more fragile under the harsh lights. She was clutching the strap of her worn-out purse so tightly her knuckles were white. Alistair was several aisles away, but he had a clear view of the whole thing. He watched her slide a prescription slip across the counter. The pharmacist, a kind-faced older man, typed something into his computer, grabbed a small bottle from the shelf, and rang it up. "That'll be $184.50, the pharmacist said. Alistair saw Clara flinch. It was a tiny movement, but he saw it. He saw the color drain from her already pale face. He saw her eyes dart from the pill bottle to a small display of instant noodles and canned soup near the counter. She swallowed hard. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry, I think I'll have to leave it for now." The pharmacist's expression softened with a look of well-practiced pity. "Are you sure, Miss Jensen? The doctor was very clear about not skipping your doses." Clara gave a weak little wave of her hand, trying to act casual, but failing completely. "Oh, I know. I'm just feeling much better this week. I probably don't even need it. I'll come back next week." She forced a smile that didn't come close to reaching her eyes. But then she did something that stopped Alistair cold. She pointed to a packet of ramen and a can of chicken soup. "Could I just get these instead, please?" The total was less than $3. Alistair Vance, a man who signed multi-million-dollar checks without thinking twice, stood frozen behind a display of cough drops. He watched Clara pay for the food with a crumpled handful of bills and coins. He watched her take the small plastic bag, her shoulders slumped in defeat, and walk out into the rain. But it was the look in her eyes that haunted him. It was a look he'd never seen up close. It wasn't just sadness. It was the raw, devastating look of a mother's sacrifice. He understood in that single moment, with a clarity that shook him to his core, what he had just witnessed. She hadn't chosen to feel better. She had chosen to feed her child. She had traded her own life-sustaining medicine for a can of soup and a pack of noodles. The scene played over and over in his mind. For the first time in decades, Alistair Vance felt something other than that dull ache of loneliness. He felt a surge of something else. Anger, compassion, and a strange new sense of purpose. He walked to the counter. "Excuse me?" Alistair said, his voice quiet but firm. The pharmacist turned. "Yes, can I help you?" "The woman who was just here, Clara Jensen." He pulled out his wallet and placed a black credit card on the counter. "I want to pay for her prescription, and I want you to set it up so that any refills she needs for the next year are billed directly to this card." The pharmacist stared at him, then at the card, his eyes wide. "Sir, I can't do that without her consent. It's a privacy issue." Alistair understood rules, but he was starting to realize that some rules were meant to be broken. "You're right," he said, his mind already spinning a new plan. "My apologies." He took his card back. "Can you tell me, is her condition serious?" "I'm sorry, sir. I really can't disclose that." "I understand," Alistair said, though a cold dread was settling in his stomach. He didn't need the pharmacist to tell him. He had seen the truth in her trembling hands. He left the pharmacy, his mind racing. A simple anonymous payment wasn't enough. It was a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. It wouldn't fix her rent, her empty pantry, or the crushing weight of poverty that was forcing these impossible choices in the first place. This stranger had shown him a love so powerful it was willing to sacrifice life itself. And Alistair Vance, the man who had everything, realized he had the power to do more than just give money. He had the power to change a destiny. He pulled out his phone, not to call his driver, but to call the head of his personal security, a fiercely loyal and discreet man named Marcus. "Marcus," Alistair said, his voice low and urgent, "I have a job for you. I need you to find out everything you can about a woman named Clara Jensen, and I mean everything, but you have to be invisible. She can never know she's being watched." As he walked back towards the glittering, empty world he called home, Alistair Vance was no longer just a lonely billionaire. He was a man with a mission. The next 2 days were a whirlwind of activity, but not for Clara. For her, it was the same exhausting crawl. She worked her cleaning shift, her body aching. She smiled for Lily, played games, and read stories, her love for her daughter a fierce light against the darkness of her illness. She ate only a few crackers, saving the soup and noodles for Lily. She had no idea that her entire life was being carefully examined from afar. In his sky-high office, Alistair read the report from Marcus. It was concise and heartbreaking. Clara Jensen, 32, widowed 2 years ago when her husband died in a construction accident, and a legal battle with the company had drained their savings. One child, Lily, age 6. Her medical file, obtained by a private consultant on Alistair's payroll, detailed a chronic autoimmune disease, manageable with medicine, but life-threatening if ignored. The report listed her meager income, her mounting debts, the final notice from her landlord. It even had a grainy photo of Lily, laughing on a swing in a run-down park. Alistair stared at that photo for a long time. He saw a child who deserved more. He saw a little girl whose mother was slowly fading away for her. He picked up the phone. Over the next few hours, he set a plan in motion. His first call was to the head of his real estate division. He identified the building where Clara and Lily lived. He said, "Buy it. I want the deed on my desk by morning," and fire the current building manager. His second call was to his lead attorney. I want you to set up an anonymous educational trust fund for a 6-year-old girl named Lily Jensen. It should be enough to cover her entire education, all the way through a doctorate if she wants. It has to be completely untraceable. His third call was to a small, independent pharmacy 3 blocks from Clara's apartment. By noon the next day, Vance Industries owned it. His final call was to his personal assistant, Eleanor. Eleanor, I need you to arrange a job interview for a manager position at our new pharmacy on Elm Street. I want you to reach out to a woman named Clara Jensen. Tell her an anonymous colleague from her husband's old company recommended her. Make it sound real. And Eleanor, be nice to her. 2 days after her awful visit to the pharmacy, Clara got a phone call. She almost didn't answer the unknown number, figuring it was another bill collector. Hello? She answered, her voice cautious. Hello, am I speaking with Miss Clara Jensen? The voice on the other end was warm and professional. Yes, this is she. My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm calling from Wellspring Pharmacies. We have a new location opening in your neighborhood, and we're looking for a store manager. A former colleague of your late husband's put your name forward. They spoke very highly of your integrity. Would you be interested in discussing the opportunity? Clara was stunned into silence. A manager? Her? She was a cleaner. Integrity? It had been so long since anyone had said anything like that about her. Ma'am, are you still there? Yes, I'm here, Clara stammered. I'm sorry, I'm just surprised. I don't have any experience in pharmacy management. That's quite all right, Eleanor said smoothly. The position is about customer service and inventory. We provide full training. The salary is competitive, and it includes a comprehensive family health insurance plan, effective on your first day. Health insurance. The words hit Clara with the force of a physical blow. A job where she could afford her medicine. A job where she could take Lily to the doctor without being terrified. It was a dream she hadn't even let herself imagine. I would be very interested, she said, her voice thick with emotion. The interview was the next day at the small pharmacy itself. Clara was met by Eleanor, a woman with a kind smile, but another man was there too, an older gentleman in a simple, well-tailored suit. He introduced himself as Alistair, a consultant for the company. Clara didn't recognize him. She was nervous, but Alistair's calm questions put her at ease. He didn't ask about profit margins. He asked her about her community. He asked what she thought a neighborhood pharmacy should be. It should be a place where people feel cared for, she said, speaking from the heart. Where they aren't just a number, where the pharmacist knows their name, and where a mother doesn't have to choose between medicine and food. The last words just tumbled out, a raw, unintentional confession. Alistair's expression didn't change, but he met her eyes. I agree, he said softly. That is exactly the kind of manager we are looking for. She was offered the job right there on the spot. The salary was more than triple what she made as a cleaner. The benefits package was laid out in front of her, and the words full medical coverage seemed to glow on the page. But that wasn't all. There's one more thing, Eleanor said, handing her a new set of keys. As part of the manager's compensation, a 2-bedroom apartment is included. It's in the building just down the street. It's newly renovated, and the first year's rent is covered. Clara stared at the keys, then at Alistair and Eleanor. It was too much. It didn't make any sense. Tears welled in her eyes. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this for me? Alistair finally let a small, genuine smile appear. A few days ago, he began, I was feeling sorry for myself, and then I witnessed an act of such profound love, it put my own life into perspective. I saw a woman willing to give up everything for her child. That woman reminded me what true wealth really is. It isn't what you have in the bank, it's what you have in your heart. Recognition dawned in Clara's eyes as she really looked at him for the first time. The pharmacy, the plain coat, she remembered a figure in the aisle. It was you, she breathed, her hand flying to her mouth. Alistair just nodded. You don't have to worry anymore, Clara.
You just need to focus on getting well and on being a mother to that little girl. We'll handle the rest." Clara finally broke down, the sobs she'd held back for years erupting, not from despair, but from overwhelming, unbelievable relief. In the weeks that followed, Clara's life transformed so completely it felt like a fairy tale. She and Lily moved into their new apartment, a bright, warm space with a full kitchen. On her first day, Clara found a 1-year supply of her medication waiting for her, with a simple note: "Your health is our company's most valuable asset." She began her treatment right away. The color returned to her cheeks, the cough vanished, the ache in her bones was replaced by a new energy. She was amazing at her new job. Her natural kindness made the pharmacy a beloved neighborhood spot. She knew all her customers by name and made sure everyone felt cared for. Alistair became a regular visitor, though never as the owner. He would stop by as Al, a friendly old man who brought Lily small gifts, and chatted with Clara about her day. He watched Lily blossom from a worried, quiet child into a happy, carefree girl. He saw the light back in Clara's eyes. One sunny afternoon, he sat with them in a park. He watched Lily chase a butterfly, her laughter floating on the air. "Thank you," Clara said quietly, her eyes on her daughter. "You didn't just give me a job. You gave me my life back. You gave Lily back her mother." Alistair smiled, the old loneliness in his chest completely gone, replaced by the warmth he hadn't felt in years. "No, Clara," he said. "You gave me something far more valuable. You reminded me how to live again." Their two worlds, once separated by an impossible gulf, had merged. A mother's secret sacrifice had become the catalyst for a miracle. A lonely billionaire's gesture had become his own salvation. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most unthinkable acts of kindness are the ones that end up saving us all. The story of Clara and Alistair shows us that love and kindness are the most powerful forces there are. One small act of compassion can change a life forever. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who might need a little hope today. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us of the good in the world. What part of their story touched you the most? Let us know in the comments below.